Alrighty, good, I'm about to say afternoon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hajim Zero here, with another, epically classic, I would say classic in my opinion, Jet Li film. This is Fearless, of course, starring him and, Collin, Chou, who plays his father, and, of course, Hercule O'Brien, that big tall dude, and the list goes on and on. This, is about Hua Hunjiao, and he's a known Chinese like master in their culture. And of course, the story takes place like the early 1900s, and with the historical complex of it, it's right when Britain was in spreading their influence, around Asia, especially in the area of like Shanghai. You know, I don't know when Hong Kong had got colonized, and then Shenzhen, where he's from, or Tianjin. But really, the story of the movie was really about the man trying to find himself and really elevate who he is. Uh, any of you martial artists out there, they always say, your greatest enemy is really yourself. Even, or if you practice anything, expressing yourself. Of course, it's an art form, and you know, you get money off of it. But at the end of the day, actually, as a human being in general, you're trying to elevate and better yourself every single day. And even Jet Li has said behind the scenes of this movie, he's his greatest, biggest enemy. You're not Bruce Lee, not, Jackie Chan. He has to beat himself up. And, it goes back a little bit to what Michael Jai White said in one of his films. An angry mind is also a narrow mind. Mainly, if you're too emotional at the wrong time, pretty much. But out of all of Jet Li's films, this one and Unleashed was like, was really impressed with his dramatic, props, because in those kind of movies you really don't focus on the characters, more about the action. But Justin Lin was saying, if the more you care about the characters, the more the action has a lot more, height and weight to it, because it's a lot more at stake. And within this film, you saw him, his ego was all super boosted up. It wasn't until, one fatal mistake had happened, mainly ironically because of somebody else. And then it was a chain ball effect of bad things happening to the point where his own family had got murdered, and he almost became a killer himself. And sometimes you have to go away in isolation to get your peace. And it's kind of a good, funny metaphor for a lot of people who make bad decisions in life in general. It's usually the outside force, that conjures up that whole thing. But with this whole, film, it really has a good self reflection on philosophy and really looking at yourself. It also goes back to what the Bruce Lee movie Birth of a Dragon, when Juan Jackman has said, your only limitation is yourself. You cloud your mind with certain things, and if your ego is that high, you're not willing to not learn anything new, and you hinder yourself just by doing that. But pretty much the whole narrative of the film was not only Jet bettering himself, but the people in his culture, because at that time, Japan and Britain, they were printing in the newspaper how, the Chinese were the sick man of the East. And it's kind of funny because, not to get too political, but you saw how one man had changed, and he operated to got his whole culture of people to fall in line. And today, you know, a lot of the Chinese, even though they have some bad things about them, majority of them, as the Asian culture or even the Chinese culture, when they come to America, they have each other's back. And, self honor as well as honor for the family, it's like a serious thing, but to us Americans, some of us don't understand that. There are a few who do. And I even remember my mom would say when I was younger, just by the way how I dress and look, I'm a reflection of her. And to a certain extent, that is kind of true. At the end of the day, if I make a bad decision, if I'm an adult, that's my choice. And the good thing with everything going on in America with the racism, there are some people, even within their own family, who are distancing themselves when some of them step out of line and do something ignorant, even whether if it's the child or the adult. And I give a lot of credit to the ones who keep one or the other in check. if they weren't raised like that, but this was a really good, dramatic film. The funny thing is that behind the scenes, uh, some of the descendants of Hua Hunjiao had sued, and it's funny because, of course, it was mainly done by a Chinese film company. They had sued because of how he was portrayed as a drunk and X, Y, and Z, which to me seemed kind of dumb, because number one, even in the movie, his character stated that he stopped drinking when he had came back, and try to, rekindle all his old wound, the wounds that he had did, or to, correct, the error of his ways. So it's kind of funny with, the politics in China, mainly that's how a little bit with the communism. But I'm not going to talk much about that because even within their own country, there's people who are divided versus, doing the right thing and telling the truth, and the one who are standing behind the state and X, Y, and Z. Pretty much a little bit indirectly what's going on here, except they're not calling it communism. They're calling it either, being a Republican or Democrat. So it's kind of funny how that is. I'm just going to flat out tell the truth myself, and I don't give a damn who really gets pissed about it. But you know, uh going back to this movie, it's kind of funny how the descendants they got mad about that. But you know, regardless of if the man had drunk or not, you can tell his ego was getting at him anyway, and that's what was this whole driving force of the whole story. It to better himself. And I know a lot of cats who don't drink, but they have a super high ego. And like I said, to some of you martial artists, especially, I know with the boxers, that has happened to them. It got to their head a little bit, and then one fatal mistake happened, and they realized some of the victories were hollow, especially if they never really dogged their opponent down. But at the same time, if they physically won the match, but their opponent really didn't care, that's how they know that it was, they really didn't win. But I know it was another fact I was going to say about this. The one thing I can say is that how the Japanese were portrayed. The funny thing, the guy who pretty much had the samurai code in this, that he had fought, he had a lot of honor out of all of them because, spoiler alert, how Hua Hunjiao died, the Japanese had poisoned him. But well, that's what is implied in this movie. But if you see Fist of Legend, which is about Shin Chin, even though Shin Chin is fictional, but his master was Hua Hunjiao, who was a real guy. Come to find out, the Chinese actually did it. The Japanese paid him to do it just so they wouldn't get their hands dirty, But again, it's kind of funny how, it's so many different stories, and people attached to certain projects, who's real and who's fake, that this one was very interesting. And of course, Jet Li had portrayed both characters of Hua Hunjiao and Shin Chin. Again, when we go and review that one. And it's kind of funny with the whole politics. I like the whole historical aspect, and how authentic it is. But besides all that, that's pretty much all I have for this review. Again, that comment box is always open. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys later. Adios.